You know, when someone tells you to be professional, we often think, be sensible.
You are going to learn to be more professional.
Stay within the lines. Don't be too out there. Don't be too colorful. Maybe dress a certain way. Speak a certain way. You know, the kind of beige mentality that's typically been tied to professionalism. Well, we often probably think about that with brands. Less color, reduced personality. But the reality is, boring brands will never win. It's the creative ones that do.
You're boring everybody! Quit boring everyone!
And in today's climate, that's more important than ever. And today I'm going to show you why professional doesn't mean boring. And I want to use 3 examples from retail, hospitality, and tech. And we're going to go into those brands briefly and figure out how they're doing things differently, how they're doing things creatively that's garnering the attention and the retention of audience members and users and customers. And hopefully that's something that you can then apply to your brand and your brand strategy. So let's get straight to it. Okay, so if we look at a definition here of professionalism, it says professionalism is a set of characteristics that displays your ability to be hardworking, dependable, respectful in a formal setting, or the skill, good judgment, polite behavior that's expected from a person who's trained to do a job well. So we kind of have the sentiment that being professional or professionalism is quite confined in the sense that you're obviously very good at what you do. A brand could be a brand leader in its field and it's, you know, they're the pros at what they do, or an individual, they have a professionalism about them. We often project our thoughts of what professionalism is, and actually being professional or coming across professionally is more than just being buttoned up, doing the job well, and being highly skilled at the task. Yes, that is completely super important. Like, you can't be a professional if you're not a pro. The reality is that professionalism is about trust. A link that I think is often overlooked is that professionalism and creativity can coexist in a very powerful way. And in today's climate, where you have so many different types of businesses, banking, finance, law, healthcare, all of these industries need creativity to survive. And there are some brands that will come across as less free-spirited, less expressive. And I wonder if that's because they don't understand fully yet that they can be more expressive and people are happy for them to be more expressive. But I truly believe that as demographics shift, have the professionalism in the background, but the creativity and expression is what really is going to allow people to feel comfortable and trust. Some of the best brands I work with bring creativity into their process all the time. The brands that have done that are the ones that continue to push forward, they continue to innovate, and they continue to gain confidence moving into spaces and gaining new customers and groups of audiences that then find an affinity to their openness, to their creativity, and so forth. So I think there is something to be unpacked here. Competence comes from trust and reliability. There are so many cool brands that you see on social media, on Instagram, that are actually having a great time doing what they love to do. I love food, and I think a great example of this is Thomas Straker. And this is something that we'll get onto in another video, talking about how you can document things to then build a brand and then build the trust through that. But the reason I wanted to mention Thomas Straker is because he had fun with the All Things Butter campaign that he ran, making hundreds of different types of butter. But the competency and the reliability of what he was doing was documented. And that has now led him to have one of the strongest gastronomic brands in London through just enjoying the process and being expressive through what he does and being himself and having fun with it. And now he's a very, very credible individual in the food scene, and he comes across as a professional, but the essence and the vibrancy of what he represents is fundamentally still there. And that's a clear example of how the competence and reliability come together, and it moves away from that old school mindset. More often than not, when I'm working with brands who are looking to change their brand perspective or trying to change the way they're positioned in the market, the first conversation or early conversations that come up is always, we need to build more confidence into your creativity. And I think that is the key to then opening up a brand identity, is not shying away from creative risk and creative ideas that might move away from a mindset that is keeping the brand and the business stationary. A good example in the hospitality space is the Hoxton Hotel. What the Hoxton has done so well in hospitality is that they deliver really professional service, but they have creative interiors. They have beautiful playlists, they work on their sound design, and they create an environment that feels inherently fun. People like to go there because of how it makes them feel. That is a really crucial point. Because they're enjoying and clearly enjoy expressing beautiful interior design, they like good music, they want to make the ambience a bit more free-spirited. It then encourages companies to allow their employees to go there to work, to conduct meetings. When people travel to come and meet those businesses, they stay at the Hoxton because it's that kind of environment that allows for openness, which I think is really powerful. So that's an example of where a fundamentally professional environment leans into the creativity to create an even stronger proposition. Another thing to think about is how playing it safe can fundamentally make a brand feel insecure. If you look at the tech space, Notion, if you've never heard of Notion before, it's a versatile all-in-one workplace, combines note-taking, project management, and collaboration features all in one single platform. Really powerful stuff. But what's really amazing is that this tool is now trusted by some of the biggest companies in the world for its note-taking, for its planning. And I think that fundamentally comes down to a creative UI, like truly creative, free. It feels very collaborative. It feels very at ease with itself. And I think that again comes from not taking note-taking too seriously. For Notion, their branding feels simple but playful. They don't need to hide behind corporate jargon to pull in major companies. They make note-taking feel easy, carefree, and versatile. And that, I think, is a really powerful asset. And again, is leaning into the professionalism of collaboration, note-taking, brainstorming, and facilitating some of the brightest minds and the brightest ideas in the world to use that app for future projects and current projects and planning. That's really powerful stuff. Equally, with Framer, the way they've approached web design and web development is really powerful. I use Framer for sites. My new Acre Green site is going onto Framer. And I moved from Wix. I've tried Wix, I've tried WordPress, I've tried Squarespace, and I've landed on Framer, and I just love the creativity. I love how it allows you to feel more empowered. It feels like it's doing everything that you would want it to do in a playful way. Simple branding, similar style to Notion, but doing it in a way that feels carefree. What I'm trying to get at here is that even for the brands that are fundamentally professional focused, you can build in that creativity. And I think that's something to consider as a brand grows and as it develops. It's important to consider, where can we be more playful? What's going to give us the character and the personality that people are going to attach to? Which actually leads me to my final point, is that personality creates connection. We feel this everywhere we go in our lives, with people, with our pets, with things that we enjoy, the art on the walls. There's personality in it. The music that we listen to, it has personality, and that's what we connect to. Brands should be no different. When brands embrace individuality, customers will inevitably feel a stronger connection. It's not rocket science. It's just being human, I promise you. A brand in retail that I've come across working in various earned media UGC spaces is Glossier. An amazing makeup brand, very sleek, minimal design, but feels luxury, but also playful. And I think they've done it in such a way that really has carved a way through the market. And again, it's an industry that fundamentally, when you think about it, is quite serious. There's fierce competition in the makeup and the beauty industry. Being playful can put you in a category, and luxury is its own category. But where I think Glossier have found a way to carve through is really having consideration over the tones, the colors, the way the models and creators and influencers promote the brand, where they show up. And so that in itself is a strategy for creativity. If you're ever at a loss of what to do in terms of understanding how to move and how to improve your creativity, look at aspirational brands and look at peers. We used to do this all the time when I was working at Dash Social, is competitive analysis. Look at the brands that you aspire to. So if you're starting a fashion label, look to the North Stars, look to Tom Ford, look to Louis Vuitton, look to Dior, look to Thom Browne, and then look at where you are in the market. Look at the brands around you and see what they're doing. If there are gaps in their brand strategy, then you know exactly where to move. If there are things that people are doing to get a bit ahead of you, see if you can take some inspiration from that. But fundamentally maintain the identity and the feeling and the sentiment that's true to you, and your brand will have its own personality and it will be influenced by all of the great things that you can take from in the world. The personality is really, really crucial. Never forget that. So fundamentally, all I wanted to say in this video is that professional doesn't have to mean boring. If you work in a service industry such as law, insurance, finance, and you work in the brand and marketing team, think of ways to bring creativity and vibrancy into your work, into your brand strategy, into your creative content strategy. It could mean the difference between breaking into a whole new audience segment or continuing on the path that you're on at the moment. If you want to see more ways to bring creativity into your brand, hit subscribe, hit like, and we'll be back next week with more. Next week, we're going to be looking at how creators can completely transform the trajectory of your business and why now is a critical time to activate your creative strategy. So if that sounds exciting, I'll see you next week. Keep pushing. I'll speak to you soon.